Today we have the man, the myth, the legend on the show, Tim Sykes. Your history is trading penny stocks, right?
My parents gave me control of my bar mitzvah money, roughly 12 grand. They're like, put it in the stock market. And they thought I would lose it all. Turned the 12,000 into over 100,000. Freshman year in college, I made over 700,000. But money, after a while, loses its luster. There's only so many nice views that you can have in nice cars. I had the Ferrari, I had the Rolls Royce, I had the McLaren, I had 2 Lambos. First Lambo, I thought I was king of the world. Second Lambo, I thought I had cancer because I felt nothing. $10,000 cancer test. And I was like, no, I don't have cancer. It wasn't meaningful for me anymore. If you're fortunate enough to have enough money, you start to see what money can do, especially in third world countries.
You like Robinhood? Like, are you familiar with that platform?
It's kind of messed up where Robinhood is supposed to be like historically steals from the rich and gives to the poor. But I was like, wait a minute, you're partnering with the rich and stealing from the poor. This is weird.
Welcome back to another episode of the Austin is Zaback Show. Today we have the man, the myth, the legend on the show, Tim Sykes. Do you go by Tim or Timothy? Tim Sykes on the show. Been following Tim forever. For those of you guys who don't know, actually, me and Tim did a Jubilee episode. It was actually the first time I met Tim. I'll link to it right here on the video somewhere. What was that, like 3.5, 4 years ago, give or take?
It all blends in, yeah. When the world was different.
And PewDiePie actually reacted to our Jubilee episode. So it was me, Tim, Graham Stephan, and then like 2 other people. I can't remember who they were. But it was a cool episode, man. And I remember hilarious. Like we had a lot of fun. We flew out to LA. I think I actually got, I don't know if I want to say it on here because they might. I got the 19 right after that episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm not sure if I want to say it. Because they might. YouTube might give us a hard time here. But yeah, man. You know, I'm excited for you to be on the podcast. I know that I just checked your Instagram. It looks like you're in Thailand right now.
I am in Thailand.
So we can pretend like we're in Thailand right now.
I love the Thai food here.
Right.
No, my social media is about a month and a half delayed.
Yeah.
It gives me time to like choose the best stuff, and then also I don't have to be real time, which is nice.
Which is super cool, yeah. So you have a whole team. I mean, you're crushing it, man. I've watched your whole journey. You know, I mean, Jacob behind the camera, our videographer here today, he's been following you forever. I've been following you forever. And I think I initially started following you because at one point I actually wanted to get into stock trading. And then I ended up in real estate, right?
Nice.
Totally different world. But talk to me. I kind of want to start there for anybody watching that maybe doesn't know you yet. Your history is trading penny stocks, right? So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so senior year of high school, I was a tennis player, early admission into Tufts University. I really worked hard at becoming a good tennis player. Worked too hard. I actually got injured. So I had Tommy John surgery. When they take something out of your right arm, put it in your left arm. I don't know if you know Tommy John surgery. It's not fun, but I'm sitting there early into college, so I don't really have to try for school. Stock market was going crazy. My parents gave me control of my bar mitzvah money, roughly 12 grand. It was just sitting in some savings account. They're like, put it in the stock market. And they thought I would lose it all. They thought that it would be a good lesson, but I got obsessed. This is what I do. I got obsessed with tennis. I got obsessed with stock trading. Senior year of high school, I turned the 12,000 into over 100,000. Freshman year in college, I made over 700,000.
Wow.
And I'm from, a small town, middle-class background, so this is a lot of money. And I was just hooked. And, I've been doing this now for 20 plus years. This was a while ago. Some years are better than others, but now I teach. I'm over $7.5 million in career profits, just small gains adding up over time. Some small, lots of small losses and lots of big losses along the way too. And now I teach and have 30 plus millionaire students, and I'm very proud to share my whole journey because most people in the stock market don't make money and they don't share their wins and their losses.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, what a story. So you got in, when was that time where do you remember what year you bought your first stock ever?
So this was 1998, 1999, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was buying like Supercuts, Boston Celtics, and I think Viacom were my first 3 stocks, and I watched them for a few months and they did nothing. Literally nothing. Like my 12K was like 12,100 and like 11,009. And I was like, this is terrible. I gravitated towards low price stocks. That's how I got into penny stocks.
Wow. And this is probably a stupid question, but how did you buy a stock in 1998? I mean, was the internet?
No, it's not a stupid question. I mean, I was also underage.
Yeah.
If you're under 18, you need parental permission. So I had a custodial account with my parents. So technically they bought it for me. And I was just using E-Trade.
Okay.
They were just starting back then. And I've still been using E-Trade for 20 plus years.
And did you have to call them back then, or you could do it online?
Back then, I'm trying to think, it was like the very beginning. It wasn't an easy process. I remember that. It's gotten easier. And now Robinhood and so many other brokers have come. and made it even easier. Like, there weren't mobile phones back then, right? Like one of my biggest wins, I made $100,000 plus as a college freshman, buying a stock on a Friday, selling it on a Monday. My weekend strategy, which still works today, which is crazy. This company announced that they had this technology that was going to make cell phones less fuzzy. Back then, there was a big fuzziness problem, okay? And they had this superconductive technology that was going to take the fuzziness away. Turned out to be BS, but the stock went up like 10 times in a week. And I was riding that along the way.
And that was a penny stock.
It was a penny stock. It went from 5 to 17 when I was buying it, and I sold it later at 29. The next day, I had my biggest win, $100,000 plus in one day as a college freshman. This was crazy. Took my whole dorm out to dinner. The next day, it hit the 40s.
Holy cow.
It was a good lesson where I made a substantial profit, but I sold way too early. And I've been doing this now for decades. I don't mind selling too early as long as I get a piece of the move.
Sure. For anybody who isn't familiar, talk to me about the difference between a penny stock and a blue chip stock or a regular stock.
Yeah. So blue chip companies, it's like the best companies, Apple, Amazon, everyone knows them. They do go up, especially in times of, growth. But they only go up like 10, 20, 30, sometimes 50, 100% on the year, which is good. But if you have a small account, $1,000, $2,000, you're not going to make that much. Penny stocks are very low priced stocks. The Wolf of Wall Street promoted tons of scams. They're very speculative. They have like one or two products. Many of them are outright scams. Some of them are just speculative. They're like startups, right? They're like, somebody starting in like a garage or something like that. They might have a technology that might work 3 or 5 or 10 years from now. But they're very small. And so their stocks are very volatile. And this is why I gravitated towards them, because I traded with a small account. I wanted my account to grow. And some of these penny stocks go up 5, 10, 20 times in a day.
Wow.
You don't have that. I mean, you could hold, even if you're holding Apple, okay, you make 20 times maybe over like 20 years.
Yeah.
It was just fantastic. But this is just like stocks on steroids.
Yeah. So for like a newbie, right, that might not understand the reason that a penny stock is they're on a different exchange because they can't get listed on the regular NASDAQ, right? Because isn't there a minimum on the regular market?
Yeah, so there are penny stocks on the NASDAQ now. So there's different minimums with how much cash they have and like the valuation of the company. But I like trading like low priced NASDAQ stocks. Not so much New York Stock Exchange. That's like the most legitimate exchange. So a lot of NASDAQ, American Stock Exchange, and OTC bulletin boards or pink sheets. But the key is knowing that they're small and they can move a lot. Which is scary because it's like gambling. But my number one rule that I've developed over 20 plus years is cut losses quickly. I trade like a coward. So I trade very volatile assets in a very cowardly way, but I can still grow over time. And this is like the kind of contradiction that's really worked for me.
Sure. You mentioned Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street. Talk to me a little bit about what do you think about Jordan?
So we did a podcast together. He didn't really know much about how penny stocks operate these days. It was actually kind of funny because he was pre-internet. So he was just like, a boiler room selling, pipe dreams to morons over the phone. Those morons didn't have the internet to research. So they didn't know. They're just believing somebody on the phone. You still have that to some degree where you have like crypto scammers on DMs and they say, oh yeah, open this crypto account. And people who are uneducated and gullible, they believe this.
Yeah.
But Jordan Belfort was pre-internet pitching pipe dreams and he scammed a lot of people. But, good marketer. I mean, he created the whole like seminar world. He created the whole penny stock world. But now it's evolved kind of past him, it was frankly fascinating for me because I'm like telling him how penny stocks work these days. And he's like, oh, really? And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But he's, from a different era, pre-internet.
Like what he did in that era probably wouldn't have worked in the era that you got involved in at all, right? I mean,
there's
to a degree.
There's still been some promoters, we're like the Atlas trading guys. They banked, they had all these Discord chat room followers. There were WhatsApp promotions. There were fax promotions. Like there's different kinds of promotions. It works in like every industry because people just are gullible. They just believe these things. And what you have to understand is that I don't believe any of these penny stocks. I always say, expect the worst. You'll never be disappointed. And people are like, why are you trading them then? Because I'm just trading their volatility. When I first started teaching 15 years ago, I was like, why I put $50,000 into this scam? And people were like, what? Like, what kind of blog post is that? But I was like, no, it's a scam. It's designed to go up for several weeks or months. I'm going to hold it for a day or two. And I made like $1,000. And people were just like blown away. They're like, what?
Yeah.
But like, if you understand that these companies are not good companies, not long-term, right? Like blue chip companies are good long-term investments. Buy Apple, buy Tesla, forget about it. Fantastic. Maybe Tesla is a little too volatile, but Apple, Amazon, buy it and then forget about it for years or decades. Penny stocks, they're not even going to be around decades. They're not even going to be around years. I don't care what they do over the course of a year or two. Again, I'm just looking for that volatile pop. So there's different hot trends right now. AI is hot. So there's all these penny stocks popping because they're going to be AI plays. They're not, okay? AI is very expensive, but they have the hype.
For sure. Yeah, you're almost just like unemotionally, like you're a trader, right? And like it's so fascinating listening to you talk because you don't have any emotion as it pertains to the company or anything, right? Like it doesn't matter what the company's really even doing or if it's a scam or not a scam. It's just you're just a guy trading a stock to make a profit, right? And that's it, right? Like at the end of the day.
And this is after a lot of experience. I had $1 million loss when I believed in a company. I invested in this company, Cygnus E Transactions. It killed my whole reputation on Wall Street. I was running a hedge fund at the time. I lost basically 30% in a year. I believed in the company. I believed in their technology. They basically invented printed home ticketing. I was right about the technology. It has taken off. Wrong about the company. They had too many debts. There was a lot of bad stuff going on behind the scenes. You have to understand that most of these companies are just going to fail. Even if they have the best intentions, even if they have the best technology, there's so many little things that can go wrong in business. And these penny stocks, the reason why they're trading for 5 cents, 10 cents, $1 a share is because it's priced in. It's like going to, like, if you went to a racetrack and it was like you're betting on the 50-1 long shot because the horse probably isn't very good, right? Or it could win, but like very low odds. That's what penny stocks are. They're all like long shots. But with the long shots, every now and then they do win for a little bit. Again, I've probably traded over 20 plus years, probably over 100,000 different penny stocks.
Yeah.
I would say less than, what I could count on one hand have actually made it.
Wow.
So the odds are terrible for truly making it. But out of the 100,000 or so stocks that I've traded, probably 50,000 of them have doubled or tripled over a course of a few days.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking for that volatility.
And how do you identify that volatility, right? Like when you talk about like the Friday to Monday being kind of like a thing that you preached forever, right?
Yeah.
Like how do you determine when you're sitting there on a Thursday night or a Friday morning and you're trying to pick a stock or multiple that you want to trade?
Yeah.
What are you looking for?
So I'm always focused on big percent gainers. Every single day, there's a list of stocks, whether they're penny stocks or big cap companies or blue chips, companies that are already in play. I don't want to be first. I don't have to try to find like a diamond in the rough. The stock is already up 10, 20, 30, 50% on the day or on the week. My first $100,000 trade, I bought the stock at 17. It was already up from 5 on the week. So it had already tripled, which you would say might be risky, but they also announced that they were going to be on TV over the weekend. And back then there were no exposés. So the TV, show was very, very positive.
Yeah.
And the stock went up to the 20s from the 17s and I sold it in the 29s. Then it went to the 40s. But I'm trying to pick stocks that are already in play, that are already up, and then trying to ride the momentum. Because the beautiful thing is any of these penny stocks, and this applies to markets everywhere, if something is going to go up, and this applies to real estate too. If some house is going to spike 200%, along the way, it's going to spike 20% and 50%. It doesn't just go up from 0 to 200 like overnight. There's steps along the way. So I'm trying to catch those steps along the way. And the beautiful thing with hype and a lot of these trends, whether it's AI or what happens in the world of medicine, trends last for several weeks or several months or sometimes even several years. So I don't want to be first. I'm never first. In printed home ticketing, I was first and I lost. So I've learned I'm just finding stocks that are already hot and already in play because so many companies have good stories. But if their stock isn't moving, if no one cares about it, I don't care either.
Do you do any research? Are you looking at like Market Watch or New York Times? Are there different outlets that you go to research, or is it purely based on, looking at the charts and just saying which one is up 30, 40, 50% on the day? Like how, is there any research that goes into that?
Yeah, so it's a mix. I always want there to be a news catalyst, so I'm looking at all the major media. My team and I actually created a software program called Stocks to Trade, which looks at all of the data that's coming in, like the hottest stocks, and there's many different ways to find hot stocks, not just in terms of big percentage gain, but there's all these advanced technical indicators. But then it combines it with breaking news. So there's stocks to trade breaking news, which I use every single day. And that alerts me to all the breaking news. Even if it's not just a company press release, it could just be something about the industry. It could be something a senator said about potential legislation for an industry. So I always want to try to combine this. In a perfect world, the stock is up and they put out a press release and they say, like my $100,000 trade where they say they're going to be on TV. Then people are going to see it on TV and then they're going to try to put in a buy order after that. I love like upcoming catalysts, right? Where companies announce, hey, this is a press release today. We're doing an event 1 week from today. So they're pre-hyping it up. Like this past weekend, I bought this biotech stock. On Friday, they came out with a press release. They said, our CEO is presenting at a conference next Tuesday. Here's what he's going to say. And the stock was up 15%. And I was like, wait a minute, everything he says is going to be really amazing. And sure enough,
and it hasn't happened yet.
And it's still, and I was like, you're pre-announcing this good news. But most people don't read press releases. They're like long. Some of them are like hidden. Some of them are SEC filings. I'm doing the digging. So people don't see it. But then, sure enough, the CEO presented at a conference. All these other news wires picked it up, and the stock spiked another 20%. Wow. It wasn't huge, but it was like, I was like, wait, I'm like looking around. I was like, is this easy? Like, you don't need inside information. You don't need luck. You just need to put stuff together. And it's not an exact science. Like, I'm wrong roughly 30% of the time.
Right.
But again, rule number one is I cut losses quickly. I have lots of 1%, 2%, 3% losses. My average win are 5, 10, 15%. So if you win more often than you lose and your dollar gains are bigger than your dollar losses, it's really tough to go the wrong way. It comes down to discipline. Well, it comes down to discipline, right? Yeah. Like if you fall in love with a company, if you're like, this is so good, I'm going to bet bigger. There's a lot of like traps.
Sure.
So I'm basically teaching like degenerate gamblers discipline.
Sure. Yeah. Which can be very tough. Have you ever struggled with that? Like, have you ever struggled with it? Like, being able to pull out when you should pull out or like whatever and like, forcing yourself to have that discipline?
This is where experience comes in. And now, when I say I have 30 millionaire students, it's not to brag. You can also see all their trades. You can see their journeys. So I see what works for me. I see what works for them. I trade with a small account these days. I donate all my trading profits to charity so people can see the process. People get confused when it's just big money, right? Like the whole stock market and especially the stock trading world is like hot pick. What's your hot pick? I don't want to study. Give me a hot pick. And I'm like, no, I want you to learn the process behind the pick. The pick doesn't matter. That's just a real-time example. So a lot of it is just teaching people perspective, hard work, like Kobe Bryant, like Mamba mentality. People are like, wow, he was such a good shooter. You don't realize he was in the gym shooting free throws, shooting different practices for like until 3, 4 in the morning. So when the stock market is closed, I give my students like homework, video lessons, DVDs, webinars that they're studying at night, on weekends. And that way you come to the stock market better prepared with a plan.
Yeah. Give me an example. I mean, you obviously gave me the example of the biotech company, right? Give me maybe another example of a company where you saw some news, you knew it was about to go up, you bought and you made money.
Yeah, I mean, a good one was a few months ago when Roe v. Wade got overturned. And I was actually giving a boot camp. I do like in-person coaching too in Las Vegas. And the news came out and everyone has their own different opinion on Roe v. Wade. For me, I'm just looking, okay, Roe v. Wade just got overturned. This is a multi-decade court case. Like, this is big news. It happened on a Friday. So I'm looking for stocks, and there was, sure enough, a stock that made a female contraceptive. EVFM was the ticker. I don't even think they're in business anymore. Like, this was just a few months ago, and they're already, like, out. But EVFM was up 25%. And, when Roe v. Wade got overturned, theoretically, there's going to be more, attention on this sector. EVFM was up 25%. I bought the stock. I was like, I think this is going to run on the weekend. I think people are going to see it on social media. I think the media is going to write about it. It's all on video too. This is crazy. I have like 100 students in person. No one even asked me. No one even says anything. They're just like, the stock is only up 25%. Everyone else is trading like hotter stocks that are up 50, 100, 200%. And they're like, oh yeah, Sykes with this boring play. And I was like, God, like it was my boot camp and literally no one cares because they want like faster moving stocks. 25% in a day is actually slow for penny stocks.
Sure.
So I picked like the safe pick. No one was interested. And it's funny on video because I'm looking around like, I was like, anybody have any questions? I just bought this stock and everyone's just ignored it. They're like, what about this other play? And I'm just like, anyways, I actually doubled down into the close. I was down like 5%. Normally I cut losses, but I was like, no, this news has legs. Sure enough, the media went crazy over the weekend. Social media went crazy. People started picking this play on Saturday and Sunday. And because the stock market is closed on the weekend, that creates an inefficiency. Everyone heard about it. I'm buying the stock at I think 38 cents and 36 cents. Monday, it gaps up just because of so many people talking about it. And I sell it in the 60 to 65 cent a share range. So I made 50% overnight. I sold it too early. 2 days later, it's $1.50. So... But it's fine because I'm literally making nearly 50% over a weekend.
Right.
So if you put that in perspective with real estate, with hedge funds, with mutual funds, I mean, this is 2 or 3 years work. That's a perfect example. I mean, Roe v. Wade doesn't happen every day.
Sure.
But that's just one kind of inefficiency. And I love these inefficiencies where even my students who have paid me literally a lot of money to learn in person, they're still not looking at this stock.
Wow.
Sometimes if you just focus on the simple big picture idea, it works the best rather than getting into all the technicals and being like, this company's value should be this. And that's very debatable.
Sure.
This wasn't debatable. This was just emotion.
1,000,000%. I know this is a bit off topic, but I'm curious as to your thought in what was, I think, 2021, or maybe it was 2020. But what you talk about, the hype, people hyping it up, and these influencers and stuff. I'm sure you obviously remember. Now, obviously, these are blue chip stocks. Correct me if I'm wrong, but do you remember the GameStop, Nikola, all those stocks that went through the roof? What was happening in that time?
I mean. So you can make money on stocks going up or going down. So short selling is like betting on a stock going down, right? Have you ever heard the phrase don't sell yourself short, don't underestimate yourself? Well, a lot of companies actually pays to sell yourself short or sell the company short. I was shorting Nikola. It's funny that you brought that up. The CEO blocked me on Twitter because I was calling him.
Didn't he recently step down?
He stepped down and he's in jail. He also for fraud and all sorts of stuff.
Sure.
So I've made millions going long. I've made millions going short. The past year and a half, I haven't short sold at all because everything's been so depressed. 2022 was a really tough year in the stock market. Everything got kind of out of whack. So when you're talking about 2020, 2021, it was just a pure mania, right? Anything was going up. Nikola, I mean, the thing went to $100 a share. It was crazy. And there were so many promoters. I always get worried no matter how good a sector is. I'm not always necessarily looking to short, especially right now. But when all the promoters say we all have to hold, same thing with GameStop, apes strong together, GameStop, and I was like, no, trading is an individual sport. You shouldn't look to see what other people are doing. And if a lot of other people are doing something, you should go the opposite way, statistically, right? So whenever everyone says we have to hold, we all have to be together. And I'm like, no, that's very dangerous. But I also don't want to underestimate Nikola, GameStop, all of them, crypto, all went much further than I thought. 2020, 2021 were my best 2 years of trading. I made $1 million each year. Trading conservatively, and I was selling way too early. I remember one of my students, his name is Jack Kellogg, former valet, used to study my video lessons in between parking cars for other people, which is crazy.
Yeah.
He's gotten much more aggressive than me. He's made basically $12.5 million in half the time, or a third of the time that I've made $7.5 million. Just much more aggressive, right? And we're celebrating one of my other students crossing $1 million. We were in San Diego and I had a big day and I was looking down at my fingers. I was I don't have enough fingers to do all the trades I want to do because there were so many plays. And I trade conservatively, but on the day I had made $50,000. And Jack looked at me across from me and he looked at me condescendingly because at that time he's making $100,000, $200,000 in a day. It's crazy. And he's he sees me make $50,000, which was a lot for me on the day. And he's like, good job. And I was like, look at you. Who are you, you former valet? But it's awesome. A lot of my students have taken it further than I have. I really always sell too soon. I like being conservative. This is why I teach.
Yeah.
You have to figure out what you're good and bad at. The traders who make the most, they have just ice water in their veins. They take huge size. They are unemotional. I'm an emotional guy.
Sure.
So.
Have you made more money going long or going short in your career?
Ooh, good question. I'd have to look. My guess would be long, just because, in 2020 and 2021, it was almost all longs. And now 2022, 2023 is all longs. So,
and why is that? Why aren't you going short much right now?
It's scary. A lot of these, even outright scams, are just spiking so much. And weirdly enough, because I've been a successful teacher, and a lot of my students are now short selling, and I have a lot of videos on short selling, it's a little crowded. It's a crowded niche. I made it a very crowded niche. And so the risk reward is kind of flipped because now, before stocks would even the biggest outright scams would go from like 2 to 10 or like maybe 2 to 14 max over a week or 2 week period. The promoters like wannabe Jordan Belforts would clean up. Now there's too many short sellers, so they're all betting on these scams because they're obviously scams. But because there's so many short sellers, it inverts. And when too many people are betting on the stock going lower and it doesn't go lower, they have to buy to cover, and it creates these huge squeezes.
Sure.
So some of these stocks, outright scams, they'll be bankrupt in like 3 or 4 years, but they go from like 2 to 50 or like 3 to 100. There was one HKD, it went from $5 to $2,000 plus. Like, it's crazy.
Holy cow.
So if you're short selling, you can lose more than you put in.
Right.
So very risky. And now for me, I don't like the stress. I'm traveling all the time. I'm teaching. I want to teach a conservative strategy. So it doesn't matter how profitable it is if you risk blowing up. It's like the nuclear option, right? Like, I don't care how good this is. You can lose everything you put in. Even experienced traders are losing big. Not for me.
Yeah, the risk is more than the reward.
And
right?
it goes very fast. Short squeezes can happen in like a minute or an hour. So you have to be watching your stock every single minute, which is not like ideal.
Not conducive for you now, right?
It's not
At
conducive
all.
for me traveling.
Yeah.
It's not conducive for students. Like, I'm trying to ease students in, and I'm trying to teach them like this fraud is going to spike the most. And people are still like, what? It's a fraud. Why is it? But it's just supply and demand.
If you're currently wholesaling real estate and you aren't using a CRM, then you're doing it wrong and you're leaving a ton of money on the table. We are one of the largest wholesalers in the nation, and by far the #1 tool that we use every single day is a phenomenal CRM, right? And a CRM is obviously a customer relationship management tool that will keep track of all of your leads. It'll follow up with people on your behalf. Even if you have a 9 to 5, right? A good CRM will be working for you while you're working at your job. So when you come home, you have a bunch of people to talk to buy their property, okay? Now, obviously, we have a CRM. It is called SimpleSend, and all you have to do is go to www.simplesend.com to check it out. It is by far my favorite CRM. We built it out over the years, and it will literally do everything you need it to do to become a phenomenal wholesaler. So go to www.simplesend, check it out, and I'm telling you, you will not regret it.
So I got to teach these counterintuitive lessons.
Which is really interesting, right?
Yeah.
You talk about using E-Trade for over 20 years. Why E-Trade over all the other platforms out there?
I mean, they're just simple. I use interactive brokers. I have TradeZero. I actually probably should open a Robinhood account. You just try different stuff, but like traders, and I think people get comfortable with something, and I'm very comfortable. Like, E-Trade 20 plus years ago, they used to have like physical centers. And I remember this. They don't do this anymore. They were losing too much money, but like they had like little free appetizers. And when I was starting, again, I didn't grow up wealthy. So I would go to like the E-Trade Center. I would get the appetizers. They had like free long distance calls back then. Long distance used to cost money. Like, the world has changed quite a bit. So I got very used to it, but now they've actually gotten acquired by Morgan Stanley, and they've been on the downturn the last year, sadly enough.
Do you like Robinhood? Like, are you familiar with that platform?
So, I mean, I have pluses and minuses. It's good that it brought a lot of people in. They screwed a lot of people where it's like, oh, free commissions, but then, you lose hundreds or thousands of dollars on a bad execution because they're working with like hedge funds. So like, it's kind of messed up where Robinhood is supposed to be like historically steals from the rich and gives to the poor. But I was like, wait a minute, you're partnering with the rich and stealing from the poor. This is weird.
Yeah.
So it's like backwards Robinhood.
They got a lot of people during the 19, right? Where like a lot of kids I noticed joined Robinhood
irresponsibly
because all of the influencers were getting paid on YouTube, right? Like, join Robinhood and then they end up getting $10 or whatever they end up getting.
Robinhood, FTX,
Webull,
all of these companies.
Webull was the big one too.
Webull too. And they reached out to us, and I'm just like, no, I'm good. Like, you really have to be careful. Like, trading, it's so dangerous if you do it the wrong way, because it looks so exciting. You can bet so much with one click, one little button, right? You can literally bet $1 million with one button. You don't realize the danger or the implications. Again, like, most traders lose. Studies show that 90% plus of traders lose. So some people are just like, stop day trading, stop doing penny stocks, just invest in the S&P 500 if you want to make 8 to 10% per year on average. That's fine. But again, if you have a small account, if you have a $2,000 account and you make 10%, it's what, $200 over the course of the year? You're not even keeping up with like, life or inflation. Like, so for me, I need to take more speculative strategies. But again, you got to do them in a disciplined manner. Because if you're just gambling, if you're hodling, people love to hodl. It's fun, it's easy, but it's very dangerous.
It's like in real estate, they say that 87% of, like, for example, real estate agents, right? They say 87% don't make it, right? And I believe the reason is because they get into the industry for the wrong reason. They think that they can do whatever they want whenever they want.
Of course.
In reality, you have to work nights and weekends. Like, and that ultimately is why they fail. Their work ethic doesn't match what it takes to succeed in that industry, right? When you talk about 97 or 90% of traders fail, do you think it's just a lack of discipline? Like they trade too aggressively, they don't know when to pull out type of thing? Or
all of those things. Lack of discipline, lack of preparation, lack of planning, right? Like same thing with like real estate where, I mean, most of these businesses are similar where it's like if you work extra hard, you find your angles. But you have to work extra hard and you have to find that little angle. There's a stat that 90% of people with a gym membership don't go to the gym.
That's true.
So you might say, oh, if I go to the gym, there's a 90% chance I'm not going to get fit. But it's like, no, the people who are getting fit are actually going. Yeah. Right? So you just literally just have to put in the work. Like it's not like trading is so hard where almost everyone who tries it fails. Most people just aren't trying it properly, right? They're not putting in the time and effort. So I would venture that, like, if you actually put in the time in the gym, in real estate, in penny stocks, you'll find your angle and it will work. But to put in that time, especially in the beginning when you're losing, when you're not making money, like, you know, people say like, oh, Sykes, like a lot of your students, like you can make more as like a part-time, like Starbucks barista. But if you get a job that pays hourly, whether it's Starbucks or Uber or any of this, you're never going to be able to grow your income exponentially. So this is the problem. This is what we need to like get through to people where if you learn a strategy, if you learn a process, that's rinse and repeat, and then you take on bigger size later on after you have the know-how, after you fine tune your process, that's how you make 7-8 figures over time. There's not enough time in the day to really make a lot of money if you have like an hourly paying job. So we need to get people to sacrifice some short-term money and short-term fun for long-term progress. And then, really you can live an exceptional life. Yeah. Some people start trading or learning from me and they're like, Tim, I'm not having fun. And I'm like, yeah, it's not fun in the beginning when you know nothing, when it's frustrating, when there's so many stocks moving so fast and you're missing them and you feel like an idiot. But you gradually find what works. I just had a student who crossed $1 million literally last week, Andrew. I just went up to Ohio to see him. He was working in a nail salon. His parents own a nail salon. I met them too. They're great people. He's giving manicures and pedicures. In the back, he's going and trading and studying. And for the first 4 years, he didn't make much. He's learning, but he saw some plays. Maybe he's a little too early. Maybe he's a little too late. Maybe he missed this one. He's in the middle of a manicure. It happens. But year 5, year 6, year 7, everything clicks. Yeah. And you learn from all those early mistakes. So people want to skip over the early mistakes, the frustration. But for me, that's how you build a foundation and you learn what not to do. Yeah. Cygnus E transactions, when I lost $1 million from my hedge fund, $500,000, my whole industry rep destroyed. I've never had a loss that size. I never have believed in a company. Like you said, I'm unemotional. And I wish you could have seen me then. I was like, printed home ticketing is the best. This company is the best. I was so emotional. I deserved that loss.
For sure. Yeah, you learned, right? Why did you even start a hedge fund at that time? Like, what was your goal with all that?
So in high school and college, I had turned the 12,000 into nearly 2 million, but I wanted to trade with bigger account size. I was ambitious. Penny stocks are interesting where they're really good for small accounts because you can make like my average over 20 plus years is like 1,500 in a day. Yeah. So I say like $1,000, $2,000 a day keeps the real job away. That's really good, but I didn't know the scalability issues back then. I was like, if I could make this much, I want to make more. So I raised like basically $1.5 million from like families and friends, but never really made it that big because penny stocks it's small accounts, it's small trades, small companies. Yeah. You can't take too big size, then you get stuck.
Right. Yeah. What is your average account that you trade with? Like, how much money do you typically trade with?
I go back to 12,000 every year. Okay. So I trade small and then I try to grow it. Just to show people the process. Again, for me, the adrenaline rush is gone. Before, when I made 50,000 or 100,000 in a day, I was like, let's go, let's go. Now it's like, okay, if I did that, that's good. Yeah. But now I literally remember Jack like talking condescendingly about me, like when I made 50 grand. That's all I remember. I want my students to make more. And for me, I've changed my job and business around what really fulfills me. Like meeting Andrew, meeting his parents. They're a Vietnamese family. They met like in a refugee camp. Like they have a crazy backstory. Now it's the American dream. His mom thought I was a scam and she like was apologizing, but his dad like gave him time. And
wow.
I love that. And I have crazy backstories with all my millionaire students. I like to meet them, their families. So in trading and in real estate and online, there's a lot of people who are like, I'll teach you to be rich. And they're mostly fake, right?
Yeah.
Like you have like these courses that are just like not real. They're just like a manual, right? Like it's like Trump University where like you pay $25,000 for Trump University and it's just like a manual that someone has written and it's not like applicable. It's not real. So I think just being real on the internet is a huge thing.
Massive, yeah. Talk to me about like cryptocurrency. Like, why have you not ever really dabbled in crypto and Bitcoin and altcoins and all of that?
First of all,
or have you?
I value my sleep. 24/7 markets are not friendly or conducive for sleep. Secondly, like I have 20 plus years of experience with penny stocks. I know them inside and out. That's the experience that I pass down to my students. Crypto, from what I've seen, actually trades very similar to penny stocks. Like you have the same patterns, a lot of volatility. The risk is many risks. Number one, I have so many imposters. Like people watching this, they probably think they're talking to me on WhatsApp or Telegram. They're not. I don't have WhatsApp. I don't have Telegram. So many crypto imposters, which sucks. So it's easy for me to say, I don't do crypto. If you think like I'm like Timothy Sykes 74396 or Timothy Sykes backup account is talking to you about opening up a crypto, I say, no, that's not me. And a lot of people fall for these crypto scams. It's crazy.
Which I don't understand why for the life of me.
Because there's no regulation.
Right.
People, like who are you going to call if you get scammed? If you lose $2,000, $3,000, $5,000? Like it's
insane. Yeah.
So it's gray area. The scammers love it. And, you know, a lot of people just need money, right? Like they want to double their money. They want to triple their money real fast. And crypto allows for that. So I like penny stocks because they're regulated. You see all my trades. Like I'm not going to try to have anybody open a shady crypto account, but I like the technology. I've said this from the beginning. I like blockchain. I love where it's heading. I wish that they could police the industry. I wish that these companies invested, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars into like a task force or a police rather than naming useless sports stadiums after themselves and then having to go bankrupt afterwards or
what happened there?
Grow.
Talk to me about FTX.
FTX Arena? I mean, that's gone. Now it's just the Miami Arena.
But I mean, like, where did they go wrong?
So many places.
Yeah.
I mean, in essence, like FTX or Binance, I mean, they just paid a huge fine. They're brokers, right? Like they actually have a solid business. People want to trade crypto. They take their small cut. That's a decent business. But all of them want more. They're double dealing, right? They're like trading. They're using customer funds to trade because everything's growing so fast. They're just trying to like grow.
Yeah.
So again, this is where people don't like regulation. They're like, U.S. banks bad, U.S. government bad. But like it protects you from a lot of these scams if it's the Wild West. So crypto, I'd say, is the Wild West. Back historically in the Wild West in the US, like, you know, murders weren't punished right away. Like there was cocaine in Coca-Cola. Like it was a crazy world. Some regulations are good. So I like where blockchain is going. It's good with the transparency, but at the same time, there's just too many scams and people with not big accounts and not a lot of financial knowledge, they're getting taken advantage of. So for me, I want to teach disciplined rules in a regulated market. I traded a lot of crypto stocks, right? So like the crypto companies, I might not be trading their actual coins, but I'm trading their stocks and they did well too. So
penny crypto stocks?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like they were the hot sector.
Yeah.
You know, whether it was a penny crypto stock or now AI hot stocks. I mean, I've seen a lot of trends. You'll laugh at this. You want to keep it simple? One of my first six-figure secrets back in 99 and 2000, companies would add .com to their corporate name. That was it because the internet was new. So I remember I was buying this company called Sportsman's Guide. They changed their corporate name. They put out a press release. We're not Sportsman's Guide anymore. We're sportsmansguide.com. And I was like, okay. They opened up a website. The stock went from like 3 to 14 over like a week.
Yeah.
I wrote it from like 4 to like 7. And then I was like, I'm out. This is crazy. And then every company after, I might have done that 100 times with companies just adding .coms. So I'm literally just looking at a press release. I subscribed to PR Newswire and BusinessWire.com back then. I didn't have Stocks to Trade or Stocks to Trade Breaking News. I didn't have tools. I would go to the website. There weren't even streaming quotes. There was a website called freerealtime.com and it would show a trade and I would have to refresh it. And I went to my high school library and I'm like refreshing like 20 computers to like turn it into streaming my way.
Wow.
But .coms were hot back then. Fast forward 20 years later, companies said, we're now .io or .ai, or we've integrated with ChatGPT, the same patterns. And I'm looking around, I was like, is someone playing a joke on me? The same patterns. So I made basically one of the like $500,000 in 2020 and $500,000 in 2021 was just companies adding or going into like, crypto or going into AI and integrating with ChatGPT. And I was just like, so history repeats. I mean, no matter how big or small a disease is, there's different diseases, right? So like you had Ebola, very same stocks that make masks, they make the huge like biohazard suits, same stocks took off in 2020. Yeah. Same stocks.
Isn't that wild? Yeah. You believe in crypto like fundamentally, you're not somebody who sees it as a viable, conservative, trading day to day, make a profit month after month after month. Like for somebody watching like Bitcoin, you believe in Bitcoin, obviously you believe in crypto. It's just not, again, conducive to your sleep, et cetera, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I mean, I believe in the potential. I wouldn't say I believe in it. I wouldn't say like, Michael Saylor, mortgage your home, mortgage your business, Bitcoin 60,000, put it all in there. Average people, non-billionaires, lose everything if you hodl and you put it all in. The volatility is excessive. So it's a very volatile asset. I believe it has potential. I hope it goes to $1 million. I want it to go to $1 million. I just want volatile assets. I just want hot trends. Yeah. So whether it's AI, whether it's crypto, whether it's .com, whether it's a disease, I don't know if you remember like Y2K. How old were you in 2000?
I would have been 5. Yeah.
So there's a whole Y2K thing. I don't know if you remember this. I'm basically a glorified history teacher. Everyone was afraid what would happen to the computers when the clock struck January 1st, 2000. Nothing was programmed for that. So these Y2K stocks went from like 5 to 100. And I'm buying these companies. And it's like, there's always another hot sector. Very rarely does it ever play out. We had 3D printers. We had nanotech. Where did that go? There's no nanobots anywhere.
Right.
You have a few like nerds with 3D printers. That never really took off.
Not at all.
Yeah. I have a charity. We tried to do a 3D printed school. That didn't really work. There were so many problems.
I can only imagine.
You just have to worry about hype.
Right.
But you also, I think, should take advantage of it because there's going to be another hot trend. I hope somebody watching this remembers this, starts looking at all my trades, looking at my students' trades, seeing like, when I say I have 30 plus millionaire students, they didn't just happen all overnight. It happens with hot trends. So when there's a hot trend, like 5 of my students capture it, they're ready, then they become millionaires. Or, now I have some students who cross into 8 figures. But it's recognizing opportunity. And too many people don't recognize it ahead of time. They're not studying ahead of time.
Timing's everything. You have to time it.
And preparation, right? Like a lot of my students who became millionaires in 2020 and 2021, they had been studying, learning from me since 2016, 2017, 2018. So I want everyone to start studying when it's not in fashion. Right? Like if you start studying in 2020 and 2021, everyone's making money, you're just going to join the crowd. And frankly, it was tough for me to teach conservative rules during a mania. Everyone's like, shut up, Sykes. You're obsolete. You dinosaur. This time's different. Like
for sure.
This time's different are the 4 most expensive words in the English language. It wasn't different. It was just another bubble. And then it came crashing down. And a lot of the people who made the most in 2020, 2021 lost most or everything in 2022.
Yeah.
But you don't have to repeat the mistakes of the past if you study the past.
Yeah. I have one more question about stocks, and then I want to talk a bit about philanthropy real quick, because I know you're big into philanthropy. I am too. Where do you see the market in the next 5 years? I'm in real estate. I own multiple real estate companies. I've had a lot of real estate guys on the show too. And a lot of people predict that not 2024, a lot of them say probably not 2025, but sometime in the next 5 years-ish, there's going to be a big market crash. Do you believe that?
I mean, a market crash can come anytime with this much debt and this much like geopolitical risk. We have weapons that can change the world in just a few seconds. So I'm always worried about the market risks and the crash risk, but at the same time, it's never paid to bet against America for any extended period of time. We had a big drop in the market, but it lasted roughly the same as previous drops. And right now, the stock market is right back to all-time highs. Yeah. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I think that there are risks, obviously, with the debt, which is crazy, and inflation and geopolitics, but we're still probably like the best country investment-wise out of anything. So money has to go somewhere, right? Like China, everyone's worried about China for a little bit, but like Chinese real estate has gotten crushed.
Yeah.
Japan was so popular decades ago, but now they've been in like a 30-year recession. Japan's coming back a little bit only because like the wealthiest Chinese are now investing in Japan because like China has crashed. So like you have to think in terms of other countries. There's so much money out there, it has to go somewhere. In the U.S. stock market, right back to all-time highs, which is crazy. It happened faster than like November 1st, like a light switch, right? November 1st until now, we're filming this in January. Like it's been a crazy 2 months. And it's like, wait a minute, all these concerns, all this worrying, all this negativity, right back to the highs.
Gone, yeah.
And then when you get back to the highs, you have to wonder, okay, if we get back to the highs, are we just double topping or are we actually going to break out? Is this a new thing?
Right.
With AI making everything much more efficient and theoretically less costly, right? Like with Amazon, with Uber, technology has a lot of cost savings and a lot of growth opportunities. I don't know where AI is going. Like you could say that the crash is coming not because of inflation or geopolitics or debt, but maybe AI will start to impact the world, right? I don't know if you remember, there was a bad Ben Affleck movie with Uma Thurman. He's a programmer and he's like going back and they erase his memory. But there's one time where like AI becomes big and like the world stock markets crash like 20-30%, and there's like a little fake CNBC and it's like everyone's selling everything. That could happen. I think AI has a lot of upside and a lot of risk. There's nothing we can do. You can debate it all day long, but like it's already in process. Even if the US stops, China or some other country will just go forward.
Sure.
There's always risks, but for me, I'm just taking it one trade at a time. I think that if you try to guess where the market is going, where the world's going to be in a few years, there's so many outliers that could affect that. I'm just looking at the single biggest winners today. And I'm looking at the single hottest trend today, and I'm trying to capitalize on that. And then I'm studying the past, and I'm trying to get people to study the past. So many people are worried about the future. It's like, what's your number one pick for 2024? I'm like, I don't know. What should I buy now? What should I invest in? Invest in yourself. Invest in your education. Too many people don't study the past, and that way they're unprepared when the past repeats. Stock market, real estate might not be an exact science, but history does repeat.
It does, yeah. You talk a lot about the world as a whole and China and Japan and all of the different markets and not betting against, America, which I love all of that. You have a lot of experience, traveling the world, doing a ton of philanthropy. You're building schools and you're building all kinds of stuff. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, I've been fortunate enough to make a lot in trading and now in teaching. Money, after a while, loses its luster. There's only so many nice views that you can have and nice cars. Like my childhood dream was to buy all the cars. I had, the Ferrari, I had the Rolls Royce, I had the McLaren, I had 2 Lambos. Second Lambo got delivered. I felt nothing. First Lambo, I thought I was king of the world. Second Lambo, I thought I had cancer because I felt nothing. I did a cancer test, literally $10,000 cancer test that Angelina Jolie had. And I was like, no, I don't have cancer. It wasn't meaningful for me anymore. And then if you're fortunate enough to have enough money, you start to see what money can do, especially in third world countries. So I started traveling more. I still travel a lot. I love to travel. I still like nice traveling experiences, but going to third world countries and then seeing how far money, especially the dollar, can go. So like we've now built over 118 schools with my charity in just the past few years. The goal is 1,000+ schools. Each school is $25,000 to $35,000. So I donate my trading profits. That makes trading much more meaningful for me. Every trade that I do now might not be $25,000 for a whole school, but like $45 feeds a family of 5 in Indonesia for a month. Think about what we spend $45 on. Think about when you go to like one of these like nice restaurants. It's like $45 for one entree. This could feed a whole family for 5 or 6 for a month, right?
It's insane. Hey, really quick, I'm sure you already know, but I've done over 2,500 wholesale deals in my career, and me and my team consistently do anywhere from 1 to 2 wholesale deals a day. If you're looking to get better at wholesaling, or maybe you're brand new, you've never wholesaled a deal, I would actually love to coach you. I would love to mentor you, and I would love for you to be a part of our education program. All you have to do is go to www.flippinsimple.com, or you can find a link in the description down below and book a strategy session with my team to see if if you would be a good fit for our coaching program. Again, this is our exact strategy and formula of how we are actually able to go out every single day and do anywhere from 1 to 2 wholesale deals a day. Nobody's talking about what we're doing, and I really look forward to coaching you and mentoring you. So again, go to www.flippinsimple.com. Now let's just go ahead and get back to the show.
Now we're building homes. We have 13 homes. I named my charity called Karmagawa. It was the Tim Sykes Foundation. We started building everything and everything said Tim. And I was like, no, I don't want this. This is weird. We have a soccer stadium in Cambodia. This was when I had to change it because all the kids had shirts that said Tim. They're all chanting Tim. And I'm like, they just want to make me happy. And I'm like, this is my nightmare. Like, I was like, I need to get out of here. There are fireworks. It spelled Tim. And I'm just like, this is like what rich white guys, they think rich white guys want. And I was like, no, this is like becoming a Black Mirror episode.
Sure.
So we changed it. I took on a partner. His name is Madabad, great photographer, because we donate, but then we also take photos, take videos, share it on social media. And we've done some fundraisers. We've raised, over $3 million in online fundraisers, just showing the world. And it brings people, not necessarily in person, because it's tough to go to a lot of these places, but you see where the money goes. We donate 100% of anything raised. I just personally pay all the expenses of the charity so that it's clean. But Karmagawa is the name of the charity. Gawa, because my partner is Filipino.
Okay.
Gawa means to do or to make in Tagalog, which is his language, his main language. Karma is like, so it's like we're making good karma.
Yeah.
And now, we're just building different projects. We have 2 recycling centers now. Heading back to Indonesia in a little bit. There's an anti-trafficking charity that I just got started with. So many issues around the world, but it makes money meaningful. And then, make social media meaningful. Like I used to post my cars and everything, and that was fun to inspire people, but then I got bored of it. So I think you have to post what inspires you and hopefully it inspires more people to chase their dreams.
Yeah, I think everybody needs to have the thing that they like. What is your purpose? Like, why are we here, right? And I'm with you. I've owned multiple Lamborghinis. I've done all that crap, and I've traveled a lot of places. Probably not as much as you. I've been in Nicaragua 3 times.
Nice.
Building houses down there. So I built houses multiple times. Obviously, paid for all the houses that we built.
Yeah.
Built them with my own hands.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more rewarding in the world, right? 100%. And I can agree with you there. I've done it, right? I've been there. I've seen the people in the community where we go down in Nicaragua that literally go jump on the trash truck as the trash truck is driving to the dump. And they're picking trash out of the garbage truck before it gets to the dump so that they can eat and feed their family, right? And it's just crazy, right? And you see that, and I've listened to you talk before, and I've come back to America, and you just like, you land in America, and you're like, holy crap, right? Like, we are freaking blessed, like all my problems are not problems, like we think we have these big problems and we really don't.
Yeah, it's perspective. And so that's why, posting on social media, and now we're actually filming a documentary. We've been filming this documentary in Indonesia for the past 2.5 years, showing all the projects, but also going into the homes, seeing how these people live. Like you said, like they're going to the garbage dump. We're building homes. A lot of them are just tying pieces of plastic together, and that's like a wall, or that's their roof. But during the rainy season, especially in Indonesia or the Philippines where we have a lot of projects, it can get washed away. So I'm meeting fathers who don't sleep for 2 or 3 months at a time because if they sleep at night, like their house might get washed away and their kids might like die, right? They don't have any food. So like a lot of the problems, like you said, are not real problems, and people would really benefit by seeing this and having better perspective. Like people are like, oh, 2020 was the worst year ever. Shut up.
Yeah.
It was not, okay? It really wasn't. It was bad. I'm not saying it was good, but worst year ever, what? Like the markets are going higher, like invest in Robinhood, you might make 6 or 7 figures. I know some dumb people who made 8 figures because they just hodled. Yeah. The dumbest people made the most money. You're watching Netflix, you're ordering Uber Eats. Life is not that bad, especially in the first world.
Yeah.
And a lot of third world countries, it really was bad. They lost like all their revenue, all their businesses, everything shut down. And then going back historically, like, there's a book that I'm reading and it's about the actual worst year in history. It's like 536 or 537. So 1500 years ago, there was a volcano, a huge volcano that was literally spewed ash and clouds over half the world. Okay? Wow. Huge volcano. So almost everyone died of famine or plague. Like the human civilization was almost wiped out. That was a little worse.
Yeah.
How many people really died in 2020? Disputed numbers, but very small percentage-wise.
In comparison, yeah.
So historically, we're doing great. We're like, obviously there's going to be ups and downs in different years, but the average life expectancy of everyone is just at all-time highs. The U.S. is the most successful society in the history of the world, right? You go back many generations, all the different empires, the average life, but that also is just the way like that people live, right? Fantastic. It's perspective. It's like, oh, I have everything, but I'm not happy. I must be depressed. No. You just don't have perspective. So I'm excited to finish this documentary this year.
That'll be really cool. Where's it going to go?
I don't know. We're talking to a bunch of different people. So we did one documentary on South Africa with the rhino poaching crisis. That went viral on Instagram with 30 million views. Then we went around to different countries for Save the Reef, learning about coral reefs. I didn't even know this at the time. Coral reefs are actually more important to our planet than trees. We think, we need to save the trees. Coral reefs are underwater trees. And there's a lot of science that says coral reefs are much more important and they're actually getting hurt much more. So we did a documentary on that, went to 7 different countries around the world, looked at the coral reefs, looked at the problems. That went viral on YouTube. That has over like 15 million views. And each of them raised like 6 or 7 figures for charity. But, this one is more perspective. I really think that a lot of people would be better served to study more, to really invest their time in education, time and money, and just focus on this whole new world that's being created right now. A lot of people are getting very bitter right now because they're stuck in the old world. They're doing manual labor jobs and they're like, screw this AI, screw technology. And it's like, no, like you can be a part of this. Like you don't have to be left out, but it's perspective.
I went to the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. And we went out there and we went snorkeling. And I remember it, and obviously I'd only gone there one time, so I had nothing to compare it to, right? But I remember like snorkeling down and like swimming literally the Great Barrier Reef and thinking, and it was beautiful, don't get me wrong, like it was gorgeous, you know, but I do remember thinking like, man, it doesn't feel as vibrant as it I think probably used to, right? And again, I had nothing to compare it to, but like from what everybody had always told me or what you read online or whatever, I was like, it kind of feels a little dull.
It's not a Disney movie. So that was one of the communities we went to, and there's different stats, but like we're not doing well with coral reefs. And the biggest part of our documentary was one fact that everyone keeps bringing up. I'll send you the link to the documentary if you could post it on the bottom here. We interviewed a scientist, and different sunscreens have different chemicals. Don't even get me started on sunscreen and cancer. But one drop of one of these chemicals in a body of water the size of an Olympic-sized swimming pool kills all the coral reefs.
Wow.
So picture this. One drop in an Olympic-sized swimming pool of a bad chemical. Coral reefs have no chance. Picture like a beach in Hawaii or any beach like that's popular with tourists. You have 500, 1,000 tourists lathered with sunscreen. Coral reefs have no chance whatsoever.
Wow.
Some of these chemicals are being outlawed. Hawaii is stepping up, but for years we've just been destroying it, and we don't even realize it. We don't even think about it. So a lot of this is just education and recognizing it. Like, I don't know if you know about the rhinos dying in South Africa. I am somewhat
familiar, with the horns, or what are they called?
They cut off their horns.
Yeah.
So they sell these horns. They think that they're an aphrodisiac. They think they can cure stuff. Do you know what it's made out of? There's one ingredient.
Isn't it like your toenails
or
your
fingernails? Keratin, or in our hair. There's no medicinal properties whatsoever. And they're killing these because there's a whole black market for rhino horns just because of lies, because of myths. So for me, I trade penny stocks. I deal with promotions all the time. I deal with promoters. I deal like scumbags like the Nicola founder, right? Like I hate misinformation. And when it's destroying rhinos, like if you ever meet a rhino, they're multi-ton animals, but they're so gentle. The babies squeak like they're the cutest things. There's videos, sadly, when the mom gets killed for her horns, the babies don't understand. They don't take the babies because the babies don't have horns. So literally there's a baby and there's multiple videos, babies just crying around the mom, trying to suckle for milk, not knowing that the mom is dead, not understanding, and just squeaking. And so, like, we support a bunch of charities that rescue baby rhinos, baby elephants. Sheldrick Wildlife Trust. If you ever go to Africa, if you ever go to Nairobi, Kenya, Sheldrick Wildlife Trust is our favorite. They just rescue all these orphaned elephants. Because elephants are killed for their tusks.
I'd love to go to Africa.
It's next level. It's intense. But specifically Nairobi, and there's also Giraffe Manor, which we went to, where you can feed the giraffes through the window, which is pretty cool. Those are free giraffes. They just come every day for the buffet. They're like, they know to come for breakfast. So they stay for like 45 minutes and they leave. But you're just feeding them. And I'm like literally feeding this giraffe. Like they have little pellets, and he just kept coming in. It was pretty cool.
Of all the countries that you've been to, you've built 130 schools, you said?
117, 118 next week.
So of all the countries, do you feel like there's any one in particular that you have a special attachment to? That might be a tough question. I mean,
no, I mean, I love them all. Like Italy, I love food and I love the people and just the family. South Africa, I love the adventure, and I really a lot of the people, South Africa and Kenya, like the people in the organizations working to protect the wildlife. But Indonesia and Philippines, like the people are so warm, especially Indonesia, Bali. We have 52 schools in Bali. Not like I keep going back to Bali, not because like the party Bali, there's that, but like we build schools and homes like 3-4 hours out, and these people have nothing, but they're so warm. And it's just a great perspective shift. Like they're just happy to be alive. They're happy for family. And I was like, I wish we could bring that mindset back. So yeah, I would say Bali. And unfortunately, it's growing so fast. Like there's so many tourists and so many influencers. And now like I've been going for like close to a decade now. I've been fortunate. But in the past 3 years, like real estate has blown up. And real estate blowing up is a good thing, but not when there's not the infrastructure. And so like traffic has gotten terrible, like pollution has gotten terrible. And it's sadly like this is what happens to like, beautiful spots when everyone just comes in. Like Airbnb is off the hook in Bali because everyone can get a villa. You take your little pictures like, look, I'm in Bali. And it's like, that's a bad side of social media, I think.
Sure. Yeah. I've been to Bali.
Yeah.
And Bali is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. And I love it there. Yeah. And it's a fine line, right? Because on one hand, all of that growth and like tourist attraction is a good thing, right? Technically for the locals and stuff. But then on another hand, it's a bad thing. So how do you... Where's the line there?
I mean, this is the argument for crypto too. Like, Bali is beautiful, crypto is beautiful, ideally, but in actuality, it's not, right? Crypto has all these scammers. There's no regulation. Bali has all this pollution, all this traffic, all this it's getting worse due to lack of regulation. So I'm not like a control guy, like government regulation, but it helps, right?
Yeah.
Like the Indonesian government needs to step up more, not just for Bali, the Filipino government needs to step up more. I mean, it's a lot of these third world countries, the government doesn't have a lot of funding. So it's like, what do you actually do? Do you pause, right? Like in Thailand, for example, like they've closed some beaches when it got too polluted and they had to like actually check on the wildlife and like make it more beautiful. So they had to close it for like 6 months. Philippines, I mean, they closed Boracay. There was too much sewage. Wow. Boracay is beautiful. One of the best sunsets I've ever seen, but it's a party place. They had to close it down for like 6 or 9 months. So I don't know how you close down Bali or anything. I'm not in the government.
Yeah.
But you do need to be able to press pause and just take account of everything. Because it's really tough. Things just spiral out of control.
Yeah. And how do you, I mean, exactly. How do you fix that problem, Bring awareness to it, I guess?
Awareness and education. You want to say like, oh, like we need to treat it better. But like a lot of tourists, they're just not in the right mindset to be like, oh, I'm going to be a responsible tourist. It's just like, hey, we're in Bali, let's go party. So you have a lot of tourists. I mean, I think it does come down to education and perspective. And sadly, going full circle, like my $1 million loss in the stock market, that scared me straight. I never wanted to bet that big. I never wanted to be that undisciplined. Sadly, I think it's going to take like some big environmental disaster. I don't know where in the world, but where people are going to be like, oh, damn, we did this.
Yeah.
It's these big losses. It's these big mistakes that get people to think differently. You want to say it like everyone knows what's the right thing to do, but they don't want to actually practice it, right? Like we know how much we want to save the planet, but every day, are you willing to like suck that up? And no. I mean, if you look at 9/11, going back to history, what's the number one lasting impact of 9/11?
Well, I mean, airport security. I mean, I don't know.
You're right, 100%. That airport security was so tight now only because of 9/11. You never had that. You never had to go like 2-3 hours before. That changed everything. And now here we are, 20 years later. And that's a good thing. I think we should have the security. But it's crazy how it's these big catalysts.
It took such a bad thing to make a good thing, right?
So it's those the bad catalysts and the good catalysts, right? So like you have to look at both of these. But in everything that I see, whether it's traveling, whether it's education, whether it's trading, whether it's real estate, you have these different trends and the trends are like going in that direction. But if you have a big milestone, like this is why I have the Millionaire Challenge. Like if you hit $1 million, none of my millionaire students are that excited to hit $1 million. When they're at 950,000, 970,000, they're like dreading getting to $1 million because they know I'm going to make a big to-do about it, but I celebrate the milestones. Like you said, what's your milestone?
I want to do $1 billion a year in real estate. Yeah.
Why?
Yep.
What does it matter if you're at 600, 700, 800, 900 million?
It's just a number.
Okay, it's a milestone.
It's a milestone.
It's something to chase after. So I want to take, I know I'm all over the place, but like you take the bad catalysts, 9/11, you know, some environmental impact that's going to happen, or the big milestones. This is what guides us. So you have to kind of learn what motivates people. Big milestones are good.
Yeah.
Bad, tragic events or losses or violence, bad. But this is how we live. And we're trending in the right direction. Like, this is what people have to understand. People are like, oh, we're trending in the wrong direction with everything. No, we're not. Yeah. Like, technologically, fundamentally, physically, financially, we're trending in the right direction. But there are some bad things on the horizon, and we have to watch out for that.
Sure. Yeah. Really, really crazy. I love that you say that, though. We are, you know, there's so much negative publicity out there, but I do think if you look macro, right, and you really pull out for a minute and you look at human civilization as a whole and how far we're coming, and, you know, between Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and trying to get to Mars or the moon or where other planets, I mean, all the way to all the different things that are being worked on. I mean, we are making progress.
And just the opportunity for the average person. Don't even just focus on like the people really pushing us forward. The average person has endless opportunity. They can watch this. This is going on YouTube. They can watch endless YouTube videos. They can learn anything they want in the comfort of their own home. Or they can go to a library, or, you know, one of my upcoming millionaire students, I was in LA, he's at 970,000. He's the one that I'm talking about. He's dreading getting to $1 million. He joined my challenge. He was driving an Uber. He didn't have any money to trade because he spent it all on education, but he's studying. He couldn't afford a data plan. He was parking his Uber in a Target parking lot. Target has free Wi-Fi. So he's bumming free Wi-Fi off Target while learning. Now, a few years later, he's at 970,000, but he put in the dedication. You know, this is what I love about my students, whether they're an Uber driver or doing nails, or, you know, Jack Kellogg, who looked at me condescendingly when I made 50 grand. He used to be a valet. Tim Grattani, my student who turned 1,500 into 15 million. He was a State Farm insurance salesman. It doesn't matter your background. You now have the opportunity, thanks to technology, thanks to this special time in history. So we have bad stuff happening. It sucks, but there's a lot of stuff you can't control. You can control your education. You can control your preparation if you have the right mindset. Everyone should watch every single YouTube video. Everyone should figure out what really motivates them and create their dream life, because that wasn't possible. Imagine, you know, a century ago, if like you had like a family business, like if your dad was a blacksmith, you're a blacksmith. Or centuries ago, if you're a slave, your whole family's a slave. You have no other options. You don't have freedom. You're not like, oh, I'm feeling depressed today. Like, no, like it's crazy how spoiled we are in this generation. But if you start to look at it, there's so much opportunity if you put in the right amount of time. Like, stop just wasting so much time. Stop complaining. You gotta learn and find whatever motivates you. Like, you know, if you like penny stocks, try penny stocks. If you like real estate, fantastic. I had one of my students, his name is Harry Ye. He was so dedicated in being a penny stock trader, but he just wasn't good at it. And I remember this was over a decade ago. He's like, I'm leaving, I'm doing crypto. And I was like, good luck with that. He did a crypto guide on my website, which sold like 50 copies. Nobody cared. Early on crypto, it was like an inefficiency. You could buy like a Starbucks gift card or an Amazon gift card using crypto. And his guide showed you how you can do that. And it was actually pretty good. We sold the guide for like $50, and you could save like $200 or $300 or $500 on a Starbucks gift card using crypto. And he taught how to do it.
Wow.
Obviously, crypto has exploded so much. Now, I actually saw him in Dubai. He flew me out, put me up in this crazy thing. Like, he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars because he chose right with crypto.
Wow.
So I have a lot of successful penny stock students. They're nothing compared to the one guy who left for crypto. You have to find what niche really motivates you. And if you're lucky enough to ride a wave, fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. Man, it's such a powerful podcast.
We're all over the place.
Well, I love it, though, dude. There's so much value here. What does the future look like for you? Are you just going to keep building schools, keep building? I mean, like, what now? You know, like, here you are. I mean, you've accomplished tons and tons and tons of stuff. Like, what do you want to do in the next 10, 15, 20?
I mean, more schools, more millionaire students. That's just, I feel it in my body. Like, it's not a job. People are like, when are you going to retire? Like, no, I have so much education to give and perspective, I think, to give. So teaching, whether in schools, just kids learning how to like read basic math, basic, you know, English, like basic stuff. Like, they just need basics.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if they don't get that, they're condemned to manual labor. So people are like, oh, are you going to trade? Are you going to teach trading in your schools? And I'm like, no, like this is basic stuff. They just need to learn. And we already have like some successful students who have gone on to get jobs and stuff like that in these countries. But I'm going to keep teaching. I have 9,000 plus video lessons now, all archived. I've got like a giant Netflix. So it's just studying the past. Now my millionaire students are helping me teach, but I'm obsessed with this documentary. I'm going to focus on that. I have to travel less. I've been doing 30 or 40 countries a year. I got to like...
How many total countries have you been to?
134.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not a good thing though. People say that like, wow, it's good. I'm like, no, there's only 197. I'm running out. And I was trying to go to all of them.
Well, you can't go to all of them, right? You can't go to North Korea. Can you?
I mean, there's probably a way if I really wanted it bad enough, but I don't. Like I want to have more impact. I want like more time in countries. Like right now I'm going around America in every city for 2 days, which isn't enough.
Yeah.
But I'm just like seeing a lot of people that I haven't seen. I haven't seen you in a while. I got another trader that I'm seeing in a little bit. But you just got to choose whatever life you want and whatever motivates you. So for me, I'm going to always just try to think about like, is this motivating for me? Am I fulfilled, or is it just like money or somebody else wants that for me?
Yeah.
A lot of people watching this think like they just have to become a doctor or a lawyer because that's what their parents want, but it's only because their parents don't know that the new world has endless opportunity, right? Maybe I'll get into real estate. I don't know. Like if you're open-minded and you just see what opportunities come to you, I think you live a much better life. And we all have so many opportunities. And the more that you learn, the more opportunities you'll have, especially if you become an expert. It's not about me. Everyone listening, what are people listening? What are people watching going to do with their lives? They have different minutes, different hours. You have to choose how to use that, how to maximize that. Too many people are wasting time watching like fantasy movies. I like fantasy movies. I like, chilling out every now and then, but you spend your whole life like watching something else or being distracted because your real life doesn't necessarily make you happy. You can change your real life. You don't have to live in somebody else's fantasy life anymore. You don't have to live in like Hollywood. You don't have to just do all this stuff that people think because you have that opportunity. I wouldn't say this if, there weren't any podcasts in like 1980 or 1960 or 1860, but like we didn't always have this opportunity that we have now. Every single person watching this can create whatever life they want, but they have to put in time. They have to dedicate themselves. They have to find what really motivates them. That's not an easy process.
Not at all.
So we gotta just like stoke the fire, man.
Yeah. And would you recommend that everybody at some point in their life go do some sort of philanthropy outside of the U.S.? Like if they're in the U.S., because I would
do philanthropy no matter what, not even just in terms of money. You don't have to build a school or build homes. Like not everyone has that much money. You could literally go to your local food kitchen, right? Like you could literally help a senior citizen play Scrabble. Like a lot of senior citizens are in these old age homes. Their families don't visit them. They're living with like dementia. It's really sad. So we started to do that too. There's food banks. You can chop up carrots and help feed some of these senior citizens or some homeless people, right? There's so many different charities out there. If you like animals, find a different animal charity in your neighborhood, or if you want to travel to that, if you want to go to Kenya and like see the elephants at Sheldrake Wildlife Trust, which I recommend. But you gotta start giving back, because once you give back, and some people say, oh, you're just saying that. No, once you start giving back, you feel more complete. Like I can't imagine my life without charity. I was very depressed when it was just material goods. I remember my last ridiculous expense was at this nightclub called Story in Miami. I don't know if you've been there.
I've heard of it.
And I had the best table in the club. I spent $22,000. I got the bill and like I sobered up and I was just like, this is so stupid. And I walked home. At that time I was living in Miami Beach. I walked it was like 80 blocks. And I walked home with this stupid $22,000 bill. And I've never had a ridiculous like bar bill again. I can't even drink these days. But like you have, like for me, that was a catalyst. I still remember that. Because I was like, I'm looking around with all these like fake friends and like materialistic people. And I was like, $22,000?
Yeah.
$22,000? Like, do you know how much money that goes? Now I do know, because that could nearly build a school for like several hundred kids. So you got to get your priorities in order. But I really encourage people, some people say like, oh, don't use social media so much. Don't look at YouTube so much. On the contrary, look at everything. Like start scrolling, see where it goes. I wouldn't necessarily go down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole, but like the education rabbit hole, there's so much that you can learn, whether it's about different communities, animals, jobs, real estate, stock market, crypto. Like it's anything that piques your interest. because you need to become an expert at this, an expert at whatever you do. There's money in expertise. Too many people never become experts because they're not willing to put in the time, because they're not passionate enough to put in the time.
Goes back to the Kobe Bryant thing you were saying.
You got to be passionate, right? That's it.
10,000 hours.
More. Like you like people say, oh, how many hours? And like, I don't even count the hours because I'm not counting the hours because I'm just enjoying. I'm like, oh, I'm learning this. Oh, I'm learning this. Like people say, like, how much do you do this? Like, I don't care. I'm doing what I love. Yeah. There's a saying, like, if you do what you love, you never have to work a day in the life, right? That's my reality. I'm not working. I'm loving this. People are like, when are you going to slow down and retire? Why? I love it. If I hate it, then I got to start thinking, okay, let me cash out. But I don't need to.
It's truly incredible. Man, I've appreciated you being here, brother.
No.
The fire freaking podcast.
Thank you.
So I'm going to put the documentary down below.
Yeah,
so
cool.
for everybody still watching real quick.
Two documentaries. One on Rhino, one on Save the Reef.
You're going to send them both to me. They'll be in the description. Also, where do people find you if they want to reach out? They want to maybe learn penny stocks. How did they get a hold of you?
I mean, I've got 2,000 free videos on my YouTube channel, right?
Cool. Yeah, you have like 500K subscribers on YouTube, 1.5 million on Instagram, I think, right?
Yeah.
So I'll put all your information.
Those are all bots.
Okay.
So don't follow my.
There's only one Tim Sykes. And what is the @
It's just TimothySykes.com.
Okay.
So if you go to Timothy Sykes, and it's all at Timothy Sykes, no numbers, no backup accounts, no.
Yeah. So if you get a DM from Tim Sykes 69, it isn't him.
It's not me. It's not.
I appreciate you being on, brother.
No, thanks for having
phenomenal
me.
Podcast.